Today on the show, we're diving into the world of economic indicators. These are the numbers that tell us how the economy is doing, things like GDP, unemployment rates, and consumer confidence. But what do these indicators really mean? How are they calculated, and how should we interpret them? We'll break it all down for you with the help of some experts. To make sense of the numbers that shape our world, have you ever sensed that someone was reshaping your perception of reality as it unfolded? It's as if you're trapped in a suspenseful, psychological drama where the antagonist isn't lurking in the dark. They're right in front of you, wearing a warm smile. Carl Jung once observed that the things that unsettle us about others can guide us toward deeper self-awareness. But what if that unease isn't accidental? What if it's meticulously crafted? What if someone is deliberately twisting your mind into their own carefully designed maze? Stick with me, because what I'm about to share will transform how you view every connection in your life. Jung uncovered a profound truth about human nature. We all possess a shadow, those hidden facets of ourselves we'd rather ignore. Yet, here's a chilling revelation most overlook: master manipulators don't just carry their own shadows. They turn yours into a weapon aimed directly at you. By the time we're done here, you'll understand exactly how they pull this off and, more crucially, how to break free from their grip. Imagine this scenario. You're deep in a discussion, and suddenly you find yourself apologizing for something you're not even certain you're responsible for. You leave the exchange feeling exhausted, disoriented, and doubting your own recollection of events. Does that ring a bell? Here's the unsettling reality. This isn't a random occurrence. Jung pointed out that fully embracing oneself is one of the most daunting challenges we face. Emotional manipulators prey on this fear. They know most people would rather question their own sanity than confront the painful possibility that someone they rely on is orchestrating a psychological assault. Drawing from Jung's studies on the collective unconscious, we're all programmed with primal patterns: our longing for connection, our dread of being left behind, our yearning to be truly seen. But what if I told you that manipulators dissect these instincts like a hunter stalking its target? They don't need formal training in psychology. They instinctively grasp what Jung spent years uncovering. The human mind has predictable weak spots, and they exploit everyone with precision. Now here's where it takes a darker turn. Jung revealed that we often cast our shadow, our suppressed emotions and thoughts onto those around us. This projection is a natural defense, but manipulators flip it against you. Here's their method: they project their own deceitful tactics onto you, convincing you that you're the one being irrational, overly emotional, or hypersensitive. It's a psychological sleight of hand, using your own mental processes to destabilize you. Jung noted that projection is a universal psychic phenomenon where we see our unconscious traits in others. But what happens when someone deliberately sows confusion in your subconscious? The manipulator becomes a warped mirror, reflecting a distorted image of you, one that's always at fault, always overreacting, always the source of trouble. Because this distorted reflection taps into your deepest insecurities, it feels eerily plausible and you start to accept it as truth. But it doesn't stop there. Jung described the persona as the social mask we wear to navigate the world, not deceptive, but necessary. Manipulators, however, don't just wear their own masks. They force you to adopt theirs. They craft a false version of you, one designed to appease them, avoid disputes, and maintain harmony. The sinister part? This false self feels like personal growth. It seems like you're becoming more compassionate, more patient, more enlightened. But in reality, you're not growing, you're fading away. Jung taught that true self-discovery or individuation involves embracing all aspects of your personality, even the uncomfortable ones. Manipulators block this process by punishing your authenticity and rewarding your compliance. Here's the shocking truth: they make you an accomplice in your own psychological confinement. You become the keeper of your own emotional prison. Jung also found that groups, families, communities, societies carry collective shadows, shared unconscious patterns that shape behavior. Manipulators intuitively understand this and manipulate not just you, but the entire social environment around you. They seize control of your narrative, dictating to you and others who you are, what you've done, and how you should feel. Jung observed that individuals have always fought to resist being consumed by the collective. But what happens when the collective itself has been emotionally hijacked? The manipulator paints themselves as the rational one, the victim, the one just trying to help, while you're portrayed as erratic, overly dramatic, impossible to satisfy. Yet, here's a critical insight Jung uncovered that many overlook. Within each of us lies an opposite gender psychological element, the anima in men, the animus in women, representing our capacity for empathy, intuition, and connection. Manipulators target these qualities specifically, exploiting your nurturing instincts, your desire to understand and heal, your willingness to forgive. They make their burdens your emotional responsibility. Jung declared that clarity comes from looking within. Your heart, those who look outward dream, but those who look inward awaken. Manipulators, however, keep you fixated on their needs, their pain, their version of reality, ensuring you neglect your own inner truth. Here's the psychological trap that keeps you ensnared. Jung believed the ultimate aim of human development is individuation, becoming a whole, self-directed person. This is precisely what manipulators cannot permit. A fully individuated person, someone who deeply knows themselves, trusts their instincts, and has embraced their shadow, is immune to manipulation. They see through psychological games instantly. Jung emphasized the practice of active imagination, engaging with your unconscious to hear your inner wisdom. But manipulators drown your mind in noise, doubt, and confusion, making it nearly impossible to hear your own voice. They turn your psyche into a war zone where their voice drowns out all others. Yet, here's what they desperately want to keep hidden. Jung discovered that beneath our personal unconscious lies the collective unconscious, a reservoir of universal wisdom shared by all humanity. This is where your deepest instincts about truth, danger, and authenticity reside. Manipulators work tirelessly to sever you from this inner compass, convincing you your gut feelings are wrong, your emotions are excessive, your instincts unreliable. But Jung found that this deeper wisdom is nearly impossible to fully extinguish. He wrote that our task isn't to seek love, but to dismantle the barriers we've built against it. But what if those barriers were constructed by someone else? Here's the pivotal moment that changes everything. Jung revealed that true psychological health demands shadow, integration, acknowledging the parts of yourself you'd rather avoid. Recognizing manipulation is part of this shadow work. It forces you to confront painful truths. Someone you trusted betrayed you. You allowed yourself to be diminished. And you played a role in your own psychological erosion. This realization isn't a feat, it's a gateway to liberation. Jung stated that enlightenment comes not from envisioning light, but from bringing the darkness into awareness. The darkness isn't just the manipulator's actions. It's your own willingness to abandon yourself to avoid conflict. But this awareness opens the door to freedom. Jung believed the privilege of a lifetime is being your true self, yet manipulation can leave you so disconnected that you forget who that is. The good news? Jung found that your core essence, your true self, is indestructible. It can be buried, distorted, or silenced, but never eradicated. It's always calling you back to authenticity. Here's how you start the journey back to yourself. First, engage in what Jung called active imagination. Reconnect with your inner voice by asking, what do I truly think? How do I feel when I strip away their narrative? Second, reclaim your shadow. Embrace the parts of yourself the manipulator forced you to hide: your anger, your boundaries, your right to stand firm. These aren't weaknesses. They're vital pieces of your wholeness. Third, trust your archetypal wisdom. Jung discovered that we all have access to universal patterns of truth, your instinct to protect yourself, to seek honesty, to demand respect. These are not flaws. They're psychological necessities. The most powerful tool Jung uncovered is individuation, which creates what we might call psychological sovereignty, a state where you are the ultimate authority over your own experience. This is the manipulator's greatest fear. A sovereign person doesn't need external validation to know what's real. They don't seek permission to trust their instincts. They don't sacrifice their truth for a false sense of peace. Jung noted that what irritates us about others can reveal truths about ourselves. But a sovereign person adds this: what seeks to control us can awaken us to our own strength. Healing from manipulation doesn't just restore you, it contributes to what Jung called collective healing. Every person who refuses to be psychologically controlled weakens the grip of manipulation in families, communities, and the world. Your journey to authenticity inspires others to follow. Here's the final piece that brings it all together. Jung asked, what myth are you living? After manipulation, you have the power to write a new story, one where you're the protagonist, not a side character in someone else's plot. Escaping manipulation isn't just about ending toxic connections. It's about forging a sacred bond with yourself. It's about honoring what Jung called the self, that core essence no manipulator can truly touch. And here's the profound truth Jung uncovered. Once you've walked this path, once you've reclaimed your sovereignty, integrated your shadow, and trusted your universal wisdom, you become nearly impervious to future manipulation, not because you're untouchable, but because you're so anchored in your authentic self that attempts to distort your reality simply fall away. You become what Jung would call an individuated soul, someone who knows themselves, trusts their feelings, and refuses to betray their essence for anyone. Jung's deepest insight was this: returning to your true self is the most challenging, yet rewarding task you'll ever undertake. It's liberating because when you fully know yourself, shadow and light, wounds and wisdom, fears and strength, you become uncheckable. Not because you're immune to pain, but because you trust yourself to navigate anything. You realize, as Jung always knew, that you are not defined by someone else's narrative. You're not your pain, your confusion, or your past compliance. You are a sovereign being with access to universal wisdom, boundless resilience, and the unassailable right to be unapologetically yourself. That, my friend, is a truth no manipulator can ever steal from you. Music rises and fades because, as Jung discovered, the greatest privilege of life isn't just being yourself, it's remembering you always had the power to decide who that is. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing and sharing it with someone who might find it meaningful.